Hey guys, it's God Bars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 174th episode of my series where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So while the album we're discussing today might not be quite as iconic or game-changing as some of the earlier picks in this group, it very well may be the most socially conscious and forward-thinking LP in the entire set, be it from the East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, or the South. And it isn't because I picked a bunch of ignorant albums or anything. Pretty much everybody in this group had plenty to say. It's just hard to find many, if any, MCs who were making songs about the type of shit Ras Kass was, especially at the time he was doing it. To be totally transparent, Ras Kass is one of those guys I follow on Instagram who will occasionally repost content that, in my opinion, is just kind of bordering on conspiracy jibber jabber. But it's kind of forgivable and understandable, considering how many of these topics he was discussing back in the day, which were then probably considered conspiracy theories. And a lot of them ended up having more weight than many would have expected. It's not really as much issues I have with specific things he says as much as it is my problem with this kind of wider mindset. I think once you cross that bridge, it's kind of hard to divulge between actual, like, truth tellers who are spilling evil secrets, and then the people who make videos about the Lincoln Monument and Statue of Liberty being stolen from Africa because they have some picture of an artifact that looks similar. I have to assume someone like Ras Kass isn't exactly a huge fan of the mainstream news cycle, and while that's understandable, I don't think most people are at this point. The one thing an amount of these networks have that a lot of the channels from goobers just talking in their room don't have the privilege of is a legion of fact checkers. Are there certain news platforms that are supposed to be unbiased and impartial that lie? Of course. Does information slip through the cracks? Sure. But personally, I think you get into kind of murky waters when you go so far in the other direction that it almost seems like the less resources and fact checkers that the outlet has, the more believable they seem to be to conspiracy theorists. However, I think it's kind of a necessary evil because, firstly, I'm no historian and I'm really not versed enough in any of the areas Ras Kass touches on in his actual music to debate it or even attempt to debunk it. But moreover, some of my all-time favorite artists and MCs like LP can tell you firsthand about the plethora of experiences he has being called a conspiracy theorist, and his Company Flow debut, Fun Crusher Plus, shares a lot of the same thematic elements that an album like Soul on Ice does. And whether I actually believe the claims of government mind control and the like to the degree these guys do is kind of irrelevant. At the end of the day, there's definitely certain predictions and or accusations that were ultimately proven true down the line. So for all I know, every single thing these guys have referenced is 100% on the level. But regardless, it makes for interesting and thought-provoking content. Honestly, he spends much more time in the proven history section than he does conspiracy territory, but the fact Razkaz makes you ponder these topics at all is a testament to the power of a message in music, in this case, a number of messages. He manages to take topics and ideas like religion or faith and redirects them through a grimy, street-grown attitude. And that filter kind of followed in the Project Blowed footsteps of staying away from the G-Funk scene and making a point to go against the grain with the whole East Coast versus West Coast beef. I mean, that situation wasn't just going on at this time, it was arguably at its height, and it's a testament to the strength of the culture, how Ras Kass and a litany of other underground or contemporary artists from either coast were able to come together in spite of the feud for a collaboration like the first volume of Lyricist Lounge. That classic compilation tape actually has Ras Kass as one of the featured artists, and he actually shares a song with OC of DITC or Digging in the Crates crew, which is fitting considering Raz was definitely in that line of West Coast rappers who took more of a page from New York hip hop. Also, 1996 was another pretty insane year for the genre, and it's super impressive and commendable that a debut released by a new, pretty underground artist at the time was able to retroactively become one of the most celebrated releases of that year, even with a title referencing a book of the same name by Black Panther leader Eldridge Cleaver. I'm not going to name anywhere near all the classics that came out in '96, but I think it is relevant to share some of them considering I've seen interviews where Ras Kass himself shares his feelings about being considered amongst these peers. He discussed how honored he was and still is to have his very first studio LP in the same conversation as game changers like Reasonable Doubt by Jay-Z, The Score by Fugees, Ride Dirty by UGK, ATLiens by Outkast, Redman's Muddy Waters, De La Soul's Stakes is High, Mobb Deep's Hell on Earth, Ghostface Killer's Iron Man, The Resurrection by Ghetto Boys, Nocturnal by Helta Skelta, Nas's It Was Written, Illadelph Half-Life by The Roots, Ice Cream Man by Master P, Hardcore by Lil Kim, Tupac's All Eyes on Me, and the Don Illuminati's 7 Day Theory, which Pac dropped the same year posthumously through the Machiavelli moniker. Even with all those heavy hitters and many more, I'm pretty confident that if you typed in hip hop albums from 1996 into the Google search bar, Soul on Ice would be within the first 10, if not 5, classics that came up. This is for a number of reasons, ranging from progressive verses with a high technical proficiency to content that bridges the gap between intelligent and relatable to the common man trying to survive in the hood, which I'm an authority on. I've always enjoyed the way Ras Kass writes and structures his bars, and he takes much more liberty with his pen than most contemporaries from the '90s at all. As I referenced in my last upload, and many before it, the first set of bars on your LP is the most important, arguably, on the entire project, because that's the very first thing the listener's exposed to. And if they're checking you out as someone who's not familiar with you as an artist, that first impression can never be remade. Soul on Ice is another LP that understands the importance of this practice, with Ras Kass introducing us to the experience with, shit, I ain't ever seen an angel, virgin bitches with halos, but my secular metaphysical theology is fatal, because me with a mic cable is a religious experience in itself. I got a message from God. He said, don't even try to fuck with me. Suckered reluctantly, carried the cross and uppercuts, and at that I'm hazardous. I speak to the heads and raise the dead like Lazarus, led the fucking lambs to the slaughter and walked on water. When it's frozen, in the ground influence, and I'm on point like the unicorn and cuneiform to bring rains to desert storm for 40 days and 39 nights. So my cerebral flows flood the earth with a megahertz, and the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Reciting a biblical verse before I make your melon burst. Like that dude Jules from Pulp Fiction, my salvation is salivation. In diction crucifixion, it's a blessing just to live another day, they say, because the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. So my people pray 5 times a day and still carry a tray 5-7 on earth as it is in heaven. I also love the hook to this opener, as it's both catchy and witty, on top of adding onto the themes presented in the first verse. With the memorable lines, Earth, it was my place of birth, born to be the sole controller of the universe, drinking with the Lord and shoot dice with Christ, hidden 7 on earth as it is in heaven. While the only featured artist or MC on this project is the late California legend Coolio, there are a group of talented producers and DJs who assist with the instrumentals here, like Battle Cat, Lamont Bird Holdby, Voodoo, Michael Barber or Flip, Michael Schlesinger, Reno De La Juan, and Ras Kass himself. My honorable mentions for this socio-politically conscious gem include tracks like On Earth As It Is, Anything Goes, Marinatin', etc., the title track Soul on Ice, and the stellar closing track that just missed my top 3, which is Ordo Ab Chao or Order Out of Chaos. When it comes down to my 3 overall favorite tracks on this thing, I think I would have to go with The Evil That Men Do, Miami Life, and Nature of the Threat. Thank you for watching my 174th video. Next time we're going back over to New York to cover another slightly more underground duo. So tune in for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off this forward-thinking LP are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.
such a thing. Look, I stand in the flame of a feeling we call pain. Father's Day mug, little hand shaped in clay. Carrier planes flew overhead in pockets.